In one word, bold. Schiaparelli demanded to be seen. She focused on making an immediate visual impact rather than fussing over the small details. She was famously terrible at sewing, but she managed to put together looks that were larger than life from a distance. She probably would have loved the internet because everything has to be bigger and brighter than it is in real life to translate through a screen. Her perfume, shocking, I found on eBay. I imagined it would be a regular sized perfume bottle. Imagine my surprise when this arrived. It was shockingly small. However, it's an original from the 1940s. Whoa. It definitely smells vintage, like nothing that you can smell in a store today smells like this. This little bottle is shaped after the body of Mae West. Mae West was a provocateur for her entire career, and in her final movie, Sextet, she was 87 years old and still full of potent sexual energy. I could say the same for this perfume, which is probably also about 87 years old and full of potent sexual energy. Schiap's desire to shock made her a perfect companion for the surrealist art circles. When she was a young girl, she shoved flower seeds in all of the holes in her face because she wanted to be beautiful. This childhood story inspired her friend Salvador Dali to paint the woman with flower head. If you want to learn more about Schiap's life, Understitched made an amazing documentary about her, but I'm here to talk about surrealism. Surrealism speaks the language of dreams. It's a bridge between the unconscious and the waking world. Art that comes from this unconscious realm is called surrealist because it has this quality of potent symbolism and an essential minimalism. Dali's The Persistence of Memory is empty and desolate, highlighting the clocks and making them that much more powerful because that's all that exists. Just like how dreams are memorable because of a few very small details, and then everything else just seems to be blank. If we look at the symbols that Schiap uses, she seems to keep returning to the same ones. Eyes, hands, lips, and keyholes. And these symbols really make the outfit memorable and surreal. In my opinion, her most surreal creation is the shoe that's worn upside down on the head as a hat. It's got this very topsy-turvy Alice in Wonderland quality about it. We don't know very much about her design process, but I suspect it involved entering states of hypnagogia, and she wasn't the only one. Albert Einstein would fall asleep in a chair holding a key in his hand above a metal plate, and in the moment when he drifted off to sleep, he would drop the key, and the sound of it clanging onto the metal plate would wake him up, and he would wake up with the solution to a problem he'd been working on. We know that Salvador Dali and Thomas Edison used this technique as well, and I suspect that this is where Schiap's most surreal ideas come from. When you start paying attention to your dream life, creative ideas do come through. I started studying Schiaparelli a few months ago, and I was really stuck on these candle slip pajamas that I've been making. Schiap said, make a big impression and don't worry about the details. I woke up from a dream one day and I saw it in my mind. It was a men's business tie that was like slipping off the neck. If you don't know the history of women's pajamas, they started out as men's business wear. It was kind of this like cheeky thing that the ladies would do where they'd wear men's business shirts as pajamas and have pajama parties. So that's why women's pajamas today still have the collar, the little breast pocket, and the buttons. We don't get pockets anywhere else, but we get pajama pockets. It's because it started out as men's business wear. I bought a men's tie from a suit store and hand-stitched it onto a pajama shirt, and that was all I needed to take it to the photo shoot and get some impactful images. If you're still not convinced that Schiap was getting ideas from the dream realm, allow me to present her sleeping perfume. It was intended for nighttime only, and the scent was designed to enhance your dreams, and I quote, illuminate the subconscious and light the way to ecstasy. Renee Magritte's artwork, A Key of Dreams, shows that things are not as they appear, and it's possible that the candle from this painting inspired the shape of the sleeping perfume, since we know that the snuff perfume she later invented was inspired by Magritte's famous treachery of images. Trompe-l'oeil was employed by Schiaparelli from the very beginning with her cravat jumper, which is hand knitted using colourwork to create the appearance of a bow on the front. On a surface level, the illusion makes you look twice, which is exactly the kind of drama that Schiaparelli wanted. It makes you question whether things really are as they seem. But I sense that it was more than just cheap shock value. I don't believe that Scap was consciously scheming up these viral moments. I think they were coming from the unconscious realm. Her first husband, Count Wilhelm Wendt de Coulor, and he had many different names. He was a psychic, and it seems like a bit of a con man, but the power of illusion and magic was so captivating that he just kept getting away with it. Even though their marriage didn't work out, he taught her the importance of aura. He lived in the worst part of the best city, so that when people would call him, the area code on his telephone number would give him the credibility of living in a good city. She used this later when she chose the locations of her fashion houses, making sure that they had the right postcode, basically. But that's a little side note. Back to symbols. I've been thinking about the mass appeal of direct representation, like the miniature store items that Woolworths would give out to customers. The everyday person loved them. People went crazy for them. I turned a pair of little mini switchblades into earrings for a friend and myself. This is considered kitsch or lowbrow art. It's a direct representation of a form from reality. Apparently kitsch is considered in poor taste because it's over the top. It harnesses our sentimentality with pop culture references or by evoking nostalgia or strong emotions. It's like the cheese dust on Doritos, which a chef would probably find offensive to his refined palate because it's overpowering and the concentration of casein and artificial flavors has a somewhat sedative effect. Schiaparelli is one of the few designers who gets away with using direct representation. For example, the eyes, lips, and hand motifs, and manages to pull it off as high fashion. I think she can get away with the lobster dress because it's surreal. If it were little teacups on the dress, the likes of which you see at Dangerfield, that would be lowbrow because it's commercial, sentimental, and it has mass appeal. The lobster is surreal. It's kind of a status symbol. Dali, who painted the lobster, said it had an erotic quality. It's a little grotesque in contrast to such a beautiful gown. The contrast is so shocking and original that it bridges the gap between high and low brow. The mainstream criticism of haute couture is that no one would ever wear that. And this was something that sold in department stores, so the mainstream public could buy and wear it, though not without a little confidence. At the same time, it's considered high fashion by the highbrow crowds, and the Duchess of Windsor famously wore this dress. Chanel, who was Schiaparelli's frenemy at the time, was also crossing the bridge between highbrow and lowbrow, but I think she was doing this through timeless minimalism, whereas Scap's vehicle was surrealism. While Chanel went after anyone who copied her designs, Scap didn't seem to care about her intellectual property all that much. She famously said that the moment people stop copying you, you have ceased to be news. I believe we don't really own our creative work. Controversial take, I know. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a book called Big Magic, in which she explains that she had an idea for a book and she waited a few years without actually writing it, and then a friend came to her with a manuscript for her book and it was exactly the same book. I've experienced this too. Last year I designed a belt and I never actually made it. It's sitting in my sketchbook. And then I just saw that one of my favorite fashion brands, Mado Morpho, released the exact belt. To be fair, they probably executed it a lot better than I could have, but it was just one of those moments where I remembered I do need to execute on my ideas, because if I don't, the idea will leave me and it will go to someone who will. That's why when I had a dream about the tulip socks, I had to just make it immediately because I knew that if I didn't make it, someone else would. In my experience, ideas are these ephemeral entities that can ride our mind and hop between different people. The dark side of this is when you see an entire friend group develop an eating disorder, or on the light side, you'll see people all over the world who have no contact with each other invent the same thing at the same time. These ideas bubble up from the collective unconscious, which is a kind of shared human brain that we have access to in our dream world. The way that these ideas will be expressed depends on the medium of your choice, and how skilled you are at that medium. I'm trying to master fashion because I have like dozens of different creative interests and hobbies, but I know that I need to master one thing so that I can bring forth creative ideas to the level that they deserve. So I need to actually master something, which takes 10,000 hours, aka 10 years. Better late than never, I suppose. When you put in the time to master something, you'll have the skills to be able to translate this idea into the material realm. Anyway, these are just my ideas. Well, they're not really mine. I have a playlist on the masters I've been studying, and I'll link it below. I hope you enjoyed my notes on Schiaparelli. If you liked this video, you may like the one I did about Coco Chanel. See you next week.